Hi everyone, and welcome to Devtoberfest 2023. I'm Ian Thane, a developer advocate at SAP, and I will be your host for this session. This is the final week, week 4 of the low code, no code sessions. The topic for today's session is demystifying SAP Work Zone. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you, our attendees, that you can earn points for attending this session by joining the Devtoberfest group on the SAP community page. By joining, you may become eligible for the Devtoberfest contest, so please check the terms and conditions for more information. A link to the Devtoberfest group is in the description below, and I'll always, before we finish today, I'll always put some links in the chat as well. Now I'd like to invite our speaker, Florian from SAP, to introduce himself and start his session on SAP Build Work Zone. So Florian, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Also from my end, good day, good morning, good day from wherever you may be joining us. Very happy to be here. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Florian Buch. I'm part of the product management organization for SAP Build Work Zone, or more holistically, what we call or consider digital experience. So our overall entry point offerings at SAP. Yeah, happy to be here today. Let me walk you through the agenda of our session today. Again, as the title suggests, we're trying to demystify what SAP Build Work Zone is about. So we're covering this in both slides as well as some demos, and we're very happy for this to be an interactive session. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. We have some time at the end for dedicated Q&A should more questions come up. Also happy to address them at that point in time then. So without further ado, let me get started. Speaking of the agenda for today, and really I want to cover, like I said, primarily 3 areas in terms of content. Number 1, recapping or laying out the big picture, right? After all, we're trying to demystify, so let's put things into context and explain how they all play together. So what are the typical use cases? What are the different related components and how they play together in the overall SAP strategy, SAP BTP and SAP Build also in particular. Then building on top of that, I want to and will cover the different product additions and related scenarios that we see. Because obviously we have a portfolio of offerings in the overall entry point space, and I want to help clarify and again demystify sort of the different editions, how they play together, when to use what, and those kind of considerations, and then sort of drilling into the specifics of the product with its key capabilities, related integration scenarios, and really how you can make the most and the best use of those capabilities, scenarios, extensibility options, and more. So again, sort of demystifying and clarifying further how things like Mobile Start, Task Center, and other components play together in the context of a central entry point using SAP Build Work Zone. Again, followed by a demo and of course dedicated Q&A at the end. So with that out of the way, let me get started and try to demystify and hopefully clarify some of the maybe remaining open questions that you have around this topic area. Again, starting with the big picture. So where does Work Zone, or as we say, maybe the area of digital experience or user experience overall, where does that fit into the big picture of the SAP strategy? And first and foremost, what is important to note is that, of course, you would have seen this slide throughout these sessions and other presentations at events and in the recent months of SAP. And so this is not new, but I want to highlight where Work Zone really fits into the big picture of the SAP strategy. First and foremost, what is worth pointing out for this slide or on this slide is the big blue bar at the bottom, which is the technology foundation for all of SAP, and that is the business technology platform. And logically, this enables a lot of different capabilities that are then built on top of said platform, from a cloud ERP to different industry-specific processes, line of business solutions around spend management, HXM, and other topics. So all of this sort of built on top of the platform in short. And what this platform, in addition to just enabling this technology layer, also provides are what we call suite quality. So BTP basically provides, empowers, enables different qualities that we see applied and made available throughout our solution landscape. And these qualities, these set suite qualities, are really covering a broad range of scenarios, from basically different embedded or integrated analytics scenarios, a unified inbox of approvals throughout the product landscape. You'll learn more about that later with Task Center, security management and single sign-on throughout the landscape, enabled by, for instance, the cloud identity services. And this is also primarily the subject of today then, a quality that we call seamless user experience. One of those dimensions of a seamless user experience quality is, of course, having a unified entry point across said landscape. And this is exactly the role that Work Zone plays. You'll learn more about this later throughout the session. But really, from this, you can see how Work Zone, of course, being a solution based on BTP and enabling qualities like the seamless user experience, is really front and center and the core element of the overall strategy and the important role that it plays, big picture for SAP. If we drill a bit deeper or look a bit closer into what BTP provides, in addition, maybe you can say to those suite qualities, it's different categories of capabilities, from automation, application development, integration scenarios, and many others. One of those dimensions, especially in the context of this Oktoberfest of low code and no code, is of course previously mentioned and talked about in other sessions, is SAP Build. And Work Zone is a core part of that Build family as well. And in addition to the previous slide, I want to now help demystify the role that Build Work Zone plays in the context of Build in particular. As you can see, and not to repeat content of other sessions too much, of course, Build is a product family with 3 distinct yet tightly integrated offerings, from Build apps to create mobile or desktop application, Build process automation to automate processes, create forms, approvals, and many other things, automations. And then, of course, tying everything together, how do you make all of that available to the end user and empower the business user to create what we call sites? That's exactly the role that Work Zone plays in the context of Build as a low-code product family, so that you really have a unified product experience, and that you can create engaging sites and experiences using Build Work Zone capabilities, which you'll learn more about throughout this session. And again, it helps tie together the different artifacts created on BTP with Build in particular to create what we call a unified essential entry point, which brings me also to sort of a closer look into this dimension of essential entry point. So sort of the third dimension of use cases and capabilities, if you so will, is summarized as a central entry point. So to recap so far, we have the idea of unifying the overall experience and seamless, making the experience working with multiple SAP solutions seamless. We have the dimension specifically around Build of allowing users to bring together different artifacts from other Build products and other BTP solutions overall. And ultimately that can all channel or lead towards the concept or the ask for a unified entry point experience. And this concept, this requirement, again, sort of to recap and unriddle this a bit, if you so will, of a central entry point, that's exactly the fundamental goal of a tool like Work Zone, to create said entry point. For that, or to understand that a bit better even, we can say it's good to maybe take a step back and look at the user reality today. And the user reality oftentimes is actually more disconnected and more fragmented that we may actually like. And that is users typically, and that can actually include internals and externals alike. So we're not just talking about employees. This may well include partners, suppliers, dealers, and other non-employee scenarios. Those users have to go through different user journeys. That could be the procurement of equipment, onboarding to a new role, to a new company even, working through different marketing campaigns or marketing planning, financial topics. You can see a number of journeys, processes that potentially touch different functional areas in a company, as well as different IT or systems related in the organization. And oftentimes the experience throughout these user journeys is suboptimal, let's put it like this, because the user has to traverse these different disconnected areas in the system and doesn't really get that cohesive single experience. And the implication of this, of course, is quite an inefficient and unproductive user experience. And we want to change that by, again, sort of not a new mission statement, but just to reiterate on that, ultimately increasing and solving that user productivity issue with a unified experience. And I want to stress that a bit, by providing, or by intelligently, I should say, providing a unified access point to different business applications, business processes, and information in different forms and formats across different devices, all in one go. This is fundamentally the mission and the goal of Work Zone as a tool, as a platform, if you so will, that it allows different administrators and users to orchestrate and provide all of that information in a unified experience. So that's really fundamentally the goal of a unified entry point experience. And what is important to note is that the term central entry point sort of implies that also that there is maybe something like a non or local entry point. And I want to help clarify how those two terms or concepts really play together nicely and really complement each other rather than are standing conflict. So in short, what we see are different local entry points. That's of course different product homepages, and again, looking at from an SAP-centric perspective now, but you can well envision other local entry points to non-third-party solutions here. Just to pick a few examples, you may have a product homepage, a launchpad, for instance, for your S4 system. You may have a reimagined product homepage for your SuccessFactors. You may have a product homepage for Concur, and the list goes on, right? So you have these different local solution-specific entry point experiences that a power user will certainly go to, and also an end user may eventually lead to, but it's really specific to that one solution. Now, as explained in the previous slide, in addition to those local entry points, there's the clear desire and benefit to combining these different relevant content pieces in a unified experience, sort of sitting on top or across those different product areas. And that is exactly the role that a cross-system central entry point plays. And again, we envision and see this throughout different devices from desktop to mobile, and we provide this in basically multiple product flavors, this central entry point offering, which I'll allude to further throughout this session. But fundamentally, that's really the concept, and I want to stress this, that we have local entry points that provide the local entry points to the respective products, and then combining information from different local entry points into a central entry point, a unified entry point experience. That's really beneficial because it can put different pieces of information in context of another, while the user is, for instance, going through a user journey, a business process that may in turn, or in technical terms, actually touch different systems behind the scenes, but the user is not necessarily eager to understand or care where this information is coming from because they want to see it in a unified experience. And that's exactly the role that a central entry point plays. And at some point, the user can, of course, then jump off to the local entry point and explore the different content in more detail. Again, this is really, as I said, complementary to another. It's not necessarily an either or. It's more a matter of you would have both, and both are beneficial for addressing different scenarios that in total, add value for the user. So what are some of the typical scenarios and use cases that we see for Work Zone and these entry point solutions? Sort of speaking of combining different pieces of information for different personas, let's get a bit more concrete. What are those typical use cases? And I want to highlight basically three in this very colorful slide. I want to highlight three main categories of use cases. It's number one, categories or use cases that we would categorize as enterprise-wide use cases or enterprise-wide experiences. Scenarios typically would focus on a unified experience that covers all internal-facing users, meaning all employees across an entire organization. So typically something like a modern corporate internet, a digital workplace experience, some things along those lines that really cover the entirety of a workforce, but really is focused on internal use cases, but spanning across the organization. Secondly, the green column in the center of the slide, we then have internal facing use cases that really focus on a specific area of a business. So this could be something like a store manager experience. So very specific for parts of the organization that get a unified access point. Another example could be something like a learning academy, a learning university use case that really focuses on learning and development in particular as part of HXM, rather than focusing on the broader spectrum of all use cases across an organization. But it's very specific to this area, but the underlying concept is still the same, which is you combine different artifacts, different pieces of content, applications, processes, and more in a unified experience for the user to increase their productivity. And of course, as I alluded to earlier, this does not stop with employee scenarios. we very much see and also offer scenarios with WorkZone that focus on non-employee scenarios. I want to highlight here that, of course, our focus is on, let's say, more known external user scenarios, more, let's say, B2B type use cases. It is not about creating anonymous public-facing websites. It's really more creating dedicated, tailored experiences to known external stakeholders. This could be your dealers, suppliers, partners, pre-day one employees, so technically not yet employees, but that are about to start with your company. So those are the typical use cases that we see in terms of the external facing scenarios, and there's different commercial models and capabilities to support exactly those use cases that really then go beyond the company borders, if you so will, but ultimately still addressing that very same idea of combining those artifacts in a user productivity type way. So I talked a fair deal about the overall positioning, the different roles it plays, and the different use cases that we see. What I want to do now is basically translate those different categories into product editions that we offer. As I said, we offer a product, a suite or a platform with the WorkZone, and this comes in different flavors to address different requirements and different needs with different capabilities and different forms of how the tool can be used, ultimately all built on the same stack, but fundamentally addressing different scenarios. And this is what I want to sort of help, sort of demystify further. And it's really those three editions that I want to emphasize in this round now. So as you can see on this slide, you essentially see the three product editions that we have. We have SAP Start, a prepackaged entry point solution, which I'll talk about in just a second. We have the Build Work Zone Standard Edition, building on top of that Start pre-built entry point experience to then further emphasize or allow further customization, third-party custom content, on-premise integrations, but really an application-centric experience. This service, for those who are not familiar with that name necessarily all too much, this is a service formerly known as the SAP Launchpad service, which has been rebranded at the beginning of this year to be SAP Build Work Zone, which has since also received a high number of additional capabilities. And then, of course, the superset of those capabilities, more or less already now, there's some elements we're still addressing, is the Advanced Edition, as the name suggests, taking the concept of Standard Edition, expanding it further to create more of a digital workplace experience, more holistically, web content and other elements. So as you can see, we essentially have those three product editions, building on top of another, building on top of a common technology foundation, and then addressing different scenarios and markets. So maybe drilling a bit further into this to help really clarify when to use what, if you will, and what those really are made of. So again, with SAP Start, we can summarize this as what we would consider maybe a prepackaged entry point. The focus of SAP Start is something that all cloud LOB customers of SAP, today this is focused on Rise and Grow with SAP customers, basically get a prepackaged single page personalized entry point experience that combines different content based on the different the roles their user has. So it's basically combining different to-dos from Task Center, different cards. I'll show this in a quick demo towards the end of the session, combines different capabilities in a unified entry point experience. And the focus is really on this being an out-of-the-box, ready-to-use solution. Of course, there's some initial setup that is needed, but this is really minimal. And at the same time, also the ability to configure is obviously, fairly reduced. The focus is on it being pre-packaged. The focus is not to allow integration of your own content, creation of multiple pages, or creating a menu structure, or anything of those sorts, or even custom branding. The focus is on this being pre-delivered, free of charge, for that matter, by SAP. If you say, this is great content, and some of my users may actually use that, or I'm perfectly fine with this. Others may say, I want further flexibility. I want to maybe create my own menu structure. I want to create sort of an application, multiple application sites maybe for my own. And I want to combine not only quote unquote SAP cloud solutions, but I may have some custom built solutions on BTP and some third party or on-premise solutions that I want to sort of unify the access towards. And then SAP Build Work Zone Standard Edition can be a great fit, which sort of builds on top of Start in terms of its content and the overall design, of course, but it gives you that additional level of flexibility for creating those multiple sites, creating a menu structure, customizing the content. Again, customizing the overall experience, custom theming, plugins, and other extensibility options, building on top of what Start offers, but very much tailored towards an administrator persona that works and creates these experiences for the users and combines more application-centric information. If you say, this is all great, though my ask is also to combine more unstructured information. So I want to maybe encourage users to collaborate more with another. I want to create unstructured pieces of information. I have web content, multimedia, corporate news, blogs, forums, discussions, and many other aspects that I want to give users access to in addition to their applications, approvals, and other aspects. Then what we consider maybe a whole business side, the SAP Build Work Zone experience in an advanced edition is essentially the target offering, which expands the capabilities of standard to those additional previously mentioned aspects like web content management, a further focus on decentralized and empowered business users. So rather than the IT administrators primarily driving the creation and overall orchestration, in advanced edition, it can be much more decentralized, and every end user can really have a more or less active part in shaping and creating the experience. Then that's really the role of advanced edition. So with this out of the way, let's maybe drill in a bit further into the actual integration, extensibility, and solution architecture capabilities of the product, before then looking into a quick demo how this can look in action, and then wrapping things up with some outlook or recap also of some of the recent innovations to make sure everyone is up to speed in that regard. Before going there, just a quick check. Was not able to see. Are there any open questions in the chat right now? If not, I'm happy to continue. Otherwise, now would be a good time to address some of them if there are any. Alrighty, I'll take that as a no. That is fine. Alrighty, just as a reminder again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, in the YouTube live chat. We'll happily address them either throughout the session or then towards the end. Dedicated Q&A time is accounted for. But for now, let's proceed and really look at the details and the capabilities of Work Zone. Again, many of you may have seen and experienced Work Zone at least to some extent. So let's drill a bit deeper into the product capabilities, integration scenarios, extensibility options, and the overall role it plays with other related services from an overall solution architecture perspective. Again, Task Center or Mobile Start to be specific. So in a nutshell, just to give you a visual hint for a more closer look at what Work Zone can look like, this is an example of a Work Zone advanced experience. And you can see, obviously, we don't necessarily have the time to go through every single bullet on this slide in full detail. But the key takeaway, first and foremost, of this is that it's a really packed, full of capabilities type solution. So we really have a broad range of solution capabilities that ultimately make up the experience of Work Zone. What the key assumption or the key note here is that Work Zone is really more of what I like to describe as a canvas, and we provide a rich toolbox with which you can then work to create really tailored and the desired experiences that you need. So coming with different theming, layouting, extensibility options in the shell, and many other aspects. So it's really a framework, a platform, a canvas first and foremost, with its boundary conditions. It's not a free code or freestyle experience in that sense. So it is a boundary. It has some boundary conditions in terms of a design framework with a grid layout and other aspects, a widget catalog and similar aspect. However, it is really coming as a toolbox which gives great flexibility and really gives you, or allows you to be quite creative in orchestrating the different experiences in a unified experience as desired. So looking at highlighting maybe some of the key aspects that are worth pointing out here. So first and foremost, we have specifically in the advanced edition, a multi-level menu builder experience that allows you to create a multi-level role-based persona-specific menu from combining what we call work pages. So these grid layout pages here, direct links to applications, custom URLs. So it's a pretty flexible menu builder experience that allows you to create whatever target use case to have, from an internal to external facing menu experience, combining all of that in a unified experience. Secondly, of course, maybe picking out some of the capabilities on the right-hand side here, we have a rich search integration or search experience. full text search, searching across the different content on the tool, and that is either integrated or deployed directly on the platform. So this is again quite powerful to give that additional dimension of exposure and finding content or discovering content. And similar to or related to the idea of guiding the user through a user journey or a process, we have the dedicated aspect of a guided experience, which I'll talk about a bit more in terms of the extensibility options. It's a very powerful capability that we have, and it's really you can do a whole lot with it. We deliver examples, but it's really quite powerful to guide the user through a process while staying within Work Zone. And then of course, maybe some of the more exciting extensibility topics in addition. One would be the whole area of UI cards, really powerful. In last year's session, we've around Oktoberfest, we've also done dedicated detailed sessions on how you can start developing cards and how you can become really a Work Zone ninja, if you will, becoming a really seasoned pro and really making these cards even more intelligent. So there's a lot of great content out there, and these UI cards really act as a great framework to show data in the tool in different ways of visualization, from really low code declarative cards to really more advanced coding capabilities. Different ranges are possible, really powerful, and really part of that, of what make the tool so exciting is the ability to show and display data from different sources in a unified experience, combining structured and unstructured data in one place. Maybe speaking of in one place, the one other dimension that we have is maybe worth highlighting here is everything around communication and engagement. Again, highlighting this specifically for the advanced edition. There's a high number of capabilities, from discussion forums, task management, ideas, and other forms of newsfeed and other forms of collaborative and interactive capabilities that empower business users to interact with the tool, interact with another to solve business problems on the tool itself. Combining access to the data as well as the ability to interact with another. Is there a question on this? I'll pause.
Florian, we do have a couple of questions actually. It just appeared. I don't know. Can you see the chat?
Not right now. Sorry. Yeah. Let me bring it up once more. Someone disappeared. So let me bring that up once more. I'll guess if you can start reading out the first question. Maybe apologies.
I'll read the last one, which is more pertaining to what you've just talked about. It says, are these features can be configured based on customer case?
So I'm not sure what customer case would be referring to. If the ask is around, can these capabilities be configured depending on the requirement of the individual deployment scenario, then the answer is very much yes. So this is a broader pool of capabilities or a range of capabilities, and they can be enabled or disabled, utilized or not utilized. So it's not that everything that is shown on the slide has to be used or has to be enabled. It's very much, let's say, a blank canvas, a toolbox, and then whatever is needed can be selected for deployment, if you so will. So that's, I guess, the overall answer.
And I think our colleague Rupam has come in and answered Thomas's question, I believe.
Okay, that is great.
So I'm sure I think you're probably clear to continue to your demo if that's where you are.
Yes, we're close to the demo. There's, I think, just 2 more slides, 1 or 3 more slides actually. One around the architecture and then a quick demo. And then thank you, Rupam, for addressing those questions. So as I alluded to, right, obviously this is sort of the capabilities overall. It's worth drilling into some of the more specifics around the extensibility and integration options, specifically also in this round. So what can you actually do? Obviously, Work Zone is a tool, many out-of-the-box capabilities, but what if you want to create your own content, your own scenarios, and your own integrations? And for this, there's a very high number of scenarios and capabilities that are worth calling out. So in a nutshell, maybe looking at this slide, there's really different categories or components that Work Zone integrates with or allows you to use for extensibility. Of course, different forms of business applications, talked about this to some extent, different pre-built integration scenarios across different SAP solutions, creating that unified entry point, of course, across SAP. We have a number of central services, so a number of services across SAP BTP that offer related capabilities, single sign-on and user management with cloud identity services, a unified inbox with Task Center, just to name a second example, which are technically separate individual offerings which are deeply integrated directly then into Work Zone or heavily utilized by Work Zone. And then in terms of the extensibility aspect, of course, Work Zone provides a rich set of APIs, primarily OData APIs, webhook subscriptions that allow further forms of customization, extensibility for data retrieval, data provisioning into the system, if you will, from users to actual content, be it for data migration, data import, etc. And then, of course, different pre-built, let's say, scenario or line of business specific integration scenarios, from dedicated integrations into Microsoft Teams and SharePoint Online, different integration scenarios for SAP SuccessFactors across the HXM suite, really, and then also a dedicated integration or dedicated integration scenarios around our digital supply chain offering, specifically around the integrated business planning or IBP solution to collaboratively follow up on tasks and create a unified experience for different personas in that space. And yeah, sort of drilling into one specific example also, because we specifically wanted to clarify that. Again, one of the qualities that we alluded to earlier was Task Center or a unified approval inbox. So how does that all materialize? And very much the idea is that you have one of those three qualities being Task Center as that unified approval inbox. And that combines and brings in the approvals and tasks from different SAP offerings, as for SuccessFactors, Fieldglass, Work Zone itself for that matter, and many others. And the goal is that Task Center provides a unified view into those different approvals and gives the user that one place to start. And the user accesses this inbox via Work Zone, this Task Center inbox via Work Zone. So that's really how those two play together very nicely. And as a user, obviously, Task Center is a key component of my unified entry point experience because it gives me that unified view on all the approvals alongside other applications. So from a technology perspective, it's one of the applications that Work Zone integrates with alongside other apps. But from the user perspective, it creates that unified approval inbox experience. And yeah, maybe combining all of that into a unified architecture view before moving to a quick demo, you can get to something like this. Again, it's a pretty packed slide. Apologies for that. It's worth sort of unpacking nonetheless. And of course, just trying to highlight the key dimensions here. First and foremost, of course, mentioned this before. It goes without saying that SAP Build Work Zone and Start, both editions as that desktop layer of entry point, are built as a service on BTP, specifically the Cloud Foundry multi-cloud environment. And it then taps into different central services of BTP, namely things that I've mentioned already, like Task Center, pre-built integration with process automation, build apps, business application studio, the central notification service, enterprise search, and other services. So you can see different integration scenarios that ultimately expand the scope and help amplify the idea of a unified entry point thanks to Work Zone. And of course, with the key aspect of integrating different scenarios for the user, having a central integration and connectivity layer is really vital for making that happen. So thanks to that overall connectivity, user and identity access management layer across BTP, this is really empowering Work Zone to create both integrations into the on-premise world, as well as the different Microsoft solutions specifically, as well as other third-party cloud and SAP cloud applications coming as out of the box, as well as custom created application integrations. So you can see really different integration and architecture pieces coming together in a unified solution diagram and solution experience from a technology perspective, all coming together, and Work Zone is that UI layer, that unified digital experience UI layer, if you so will, where all of this comes together. So with this out of the way, let's talk a quick demo. We can quickly pause again if there's more questions that are not answered in the chat.
There is one quick question, Florian. Yes. It's from Daniel. He says, are the other content packages to SAP products like Concur or C4C planned for Work Zone?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first and foremost, so there are different content packages for different LOBs available. There are, for Concur, for example, there is not a content package yet. So what we're doing, and this is maybe a good segue to the demo, is we already are working with different teams to get more and more content basically supported on the system. So this is the general answer. This happens among other areas via the support or via the integration with SAP Start. So let me know if you can see my screen. It should be coming up momentarily. There you go.
Yeah, it's available to us. Thank you.
All righty, very good. So what you're able to see right here is basically looking at the session from earlier, or the introduction from earlier. That's an example demo persona of SAP Start. So again, I'm Ben in this demo example here. I'm an engineering manager, and I'm using SAP Start, which provides me that, again, pre-packaged, pre-built entry point experience with pre-delivered content. And sort of to tap into that question from earlier, already here, I can see not only, of course, a personalized welcome banner and a central search experience. I'm also presented with relevant to-dos that are available for me. And those to-dos are coming from Task Center. So while I'm presented with them here in this nice visualization, technically this is information shown to me here, coming from my unified inbox that is a Task Center. And then further here at the bottom, we have a section called Insights, which is really sort of an intelligent mechanism that dynamically selects, depending on who I am, the scenarios I'm working on, the permissions I have, content from the different integrated line of business solutions, and suggests those what we call cards, interest cards here, to me as a user. Today, this content is coming from S4 Cloud and SuccessFactors. Other line of businesses are basically being worked on, that you get those suggestions really across the SAP Cloud solutions. So that's one dimension. And then, of course, what you can do and will be able to do in an easier way going forward is you can reutilize that content. You can reutilize this content already today in Standard Edition. We're working on making this content reusable also for the Advanced Edition going forward. But in general, you can see again, Ben, as an engineering manager that I'm in right now, I'm given this entry point, and this already suggests and showcases information to me that is relevant across different tools. And if we drill a bit further, let's say I'm interested to learn about what tasks I have in Task Center. So I can drill in. I'm still basically in Start, which again is built on the Work Zone technology stack. And now I'm in Task Center. I haven't left the application itself. And now, to address the question from earlier, I can see already different content and approvals coming from different solutions, all integrated into this unified Task Center. For instance, also tasks from Concur, where I have to do some expense reporting, for example. So you can see here, Task Center providing a unified approval inbox, deeply integrated and part of the product. Further to that, of course, what I can do as a user, I can always go back and do other things if I wish. And yeah, so what I can show maybe in addition here, I can quickly move back to the demo persona. If I say, okay, I see some interesting data here, let me take additional action because I see maybe there's some information, some goal information from SuccessFactors that is overdue, or some purchase requisition, or yeah, I have some contracts that I want to monitor. Let's say I want to take a necessary action. I can take this information, and thanks to the direct integration, single sign-on setup we talked about, or I talked about previously, I can directly get into, for instance, my S4 system that is connected here. And again, me, Ben, as an engineering manager, I have that unified starting point. And at that point, I'm now into the dedicated transaction, or navigated into the dedicated transaction. I can take the necessary action. In this case, I'm in this specific contract. So this unified entry point helped me get there right away and take the action as I need. So this is one scenario. And then, of course, what I can always do is I say, well, I have some suggestions here, but maybe I want to do more, and I want to take some actions because I know, well, based on this goal, this reminded me I maybe need to do some goal assignment for my team. So based on my permissions and roles, I'm presented with dedicated personalized actions directly, for instance, coming from SuccessFactors. So I can simply use the search, which provides these actions that I can take directly from the search. So it's not just a search, I can just click on this. And again, thanks to the joint single sign-on experience across the tool, I'm now directly in SuccessFactors, and I can work on the goal plan until 2024. As you can see here, I'm Ben, the engineering manager. I can maybe now create some goals, cascade them down to my team. My overall overdue goal reminded me of doing that. So as you can see, basically different mechanisms as this unified entry point that eventually leads me into different transactions as part of the local entry point. which I can also see in the question now in the chat, maybe sort of doubling down on this question around FOP, work zone, and how this all plays together. So from a product perspective, we have basically the idea of the central entry point, which has basically 3 product editions. We have SAP Start, SAP Build Work Zone Standard, and Advanced Edition. Advanced also comes in a solution bundle called SuccessFactors Work Zone, but it's fundamentally and technically the same as Advanced Edition, but it's a solution bundle of multiple SAP Build or BTP products. So that's really the idea of a unified entry point. Again, those offerings you may formally know as Launchpad Service, respectively Work Zone or Work Zone for HR in earlier days. This complements the local product homepages. And these product homepages or product local entry points are things like the Fiori Launchpad, FOP, on the ABAP side on S4. So the S4 has a local product homepage, a Launchpad, and that is the ABAP FOP, for example. So that is very much still the approach and technology used here, which again, as I alluded to, complements the central entry point. And then other products like Concur, SuccessFactors also have their own product homepage, which aren't necessarily Launchpads or ABAP based, but fundamentally also have a product homepage. So again, Work Zone combines then relevant pieces of information from those local entry points into a central entry point. And maybe just to sort of shift gears a bit from the demo, because now we've looked at Start and now I'm Ben, the engineer manager. So I've used that experience. Let's say now I'm a different persona. I'm now maybe an HR business partner, and I want to do some additional action here. And I have further and more extensive requirements around customization, personalization, and overall creation of an experience. And here, maybe something like the Advanced Edition, which we're able to see right here, would come in. And now my goal is more to really create a unified experience and maybe a community of practice, a one-stop shop experience around different topic areas. This is the second part of the quick demo that I want to show. And what we can see right here, again, now I'm Tessa instead of Ben, the engineer manager. And what I can do right here is I can simply browse either existing communities or also create a new workspace if I wish to do that. And with this, I can quite easily go ahead and pick a template, one of the powerful capabilities, because obviously having to start from scratch necessarily isn't the right thing to do. So I can say here, let's say HR community, whatever I want to do here, I can do different things. And then I can provide a description if I choose to. I can provide different types. So I can select what type of visibility the workspace should have. Again, I can always change that later on, but that's all I really need to do. Either an out-of-the-box or a custom created template. I use that. And then within seconds, I have created my own workspace and can start working on this, right? Obviously, this is relatively empty. So this is not yet going to win any design awards necessarily, but it's quite easy to get started. It literally took seconds, as you've seen just now on the screen. And I can now take action as I see fit, right? So we have different recommendations for me as a user. It suggests, for instance, to customize the starting page, the work page here in my experience, which I'll do in a second. I can create an announcement. I can add some content. So here it really knows, okay, well, it really guides me through this experience. I've now created a workspace. Let's say I want to do some additional things. I can easily go ahead and, for instance, edit the cover photo. I can easily do that do that. For instance, I can easily say, go ahead, take in a banner photo. I may like the way this looks. I can maybe drag and drop it a bit. And yeah, all of a sudden, it looks a bit more visually pleasing, more to what I want to do here. In addition to maybe adjusting the overall layout, let's say, well, I don't want to work on this community on my own. I want to now work with some additional team members here. So I want to maybe invite Stephen here. And I want to maybe invite Anya. And yeah, now I'm good to have those two fellow colleagues here invited. Maybe someone from IT to support if needed, and I can just make someone an administrator also. So you can see, very easy. I've started to expand the community now. And let's say, in addition to, of course, having designed this, still relatively empty experience, let's say I want to rearrange the layout and overall, make this a bit more rich in terms of content. And now we can again see the power of build and the concept of a low or really no code experience in this context. Because I, as a creator of this, I'm just a regular, maybe a bit more tech savvy or tech interested user. But at the end of the day, I don't have to know any programming or the form of extended IT capabilities. I can just go in, start looking at this layout and really start playing around with the layout as I like. That's what I sort of highlighted also earlier. We have this grid layout. It's really visual, easy, intuitive to work with. Again, nothing in terms of custom coding is necessary. I can just create this layout, pick and choose from a rich catalog of pre-built content. Again, a selection of pre-built content artifacts, as well as, of course, custom created elements. I can take that, combine that as I see fit. I can, just to pick a quick example here, obviously in an HR community would maybe not work on this project, or I can also add other examples here. For example, in the baby or parental leave example, I may want to suggest from our internal store some top selling products that we should promote to our fellow soon to be parents. So you can see broad range of scenarios, easily changeable layout and overall experience in the product, quite intuitive and really easy and fast to work with. And let's say I'm obviously, this is again not going to win necessarily design award just yet, soon, but not just yet. And let's say for now I'm actually happy with the way it is. Let's maybe get rid of this one, move this around, maybe add one more thing here. Let's add a placeholder for some text. And now let's say I'm happy with the way it is right now. I can just say publish. I want to maybe inform new updates, or let's say first version. And with this, I'm essentially, I've already done my first update. You can see it literally takes seconds, minutes to create such experiences. And I've only scratched the surface now in terms of the capabilities that the product has to offer. But really the key idea is that as a user, I'm empowered to go through this on my own as a business user, specifically in the advanced edition, to create these communities, these what we call workspaces, alongside the content, maybe just to wrap this demo up, alongside or accompanying the content that is still created by a team of administrators or central moderators for me as a user that I'm provided with, again, in a central unified way, again, combining structured, unstructured data alike in one place. So with this, I want to conclude the quick demo, give another chance for questions if there are any unanswered ones, and then sort of wrap things up with a quick sort of collection of exciting enhancements that we didn't yet see in the demo and that we have delivered recently to make sure everyone is aware of this before wrapping up. So again,
so we are clear on questions, so you can continue, Lauren. Thank you.
All righty, awesome. Thank you very much. So then, to wrap things up, let's have a quick look, or let's recap really, looking at the recent weeks or quarters and months, certainly, of things that we have delivered for both the product editions. So there's really a lot of exciting stuff that we want to make sure that everyone is aware of what we've delivered. And this can also give you a glimpse into sort of further areas of product investments that we're heading towards. So I want to start things off. Of course, SAP Start is first and foremost something that I don't have a slide for, but this hasn't been around for so long. This has only been released, I think in summertime this year, roughly. So this is relatively new as well, and overall very exciting. You've seen a quick demo of this. In addition to that being available in the first place, we've delivered very many exciting enhancements for standard edition. And here's the selection of those enhancements. And this gives you an idea of the different categories of enhancements that we're working on, or that we have worked on and will continue to work on. So first and foremost, to better address external facing use cases, we've actually added a new commercial model. And we've done the same actually for advanced edition. So many of the things that you see here are also applicable even to advanced. So now a connection-based metric that allows consumption for more infrequent external facing users, quite helpful. Secondly, we've added a detailed and now very native direct integration with cloud identity services. So this is basically on top of the integration with the BTP's overall security or trust setup. there's a dedicated blog, which we can also maybe share in the aftermath, that talks about demystifying that specific piece of the integration. But it's very, very powerful because, among other things, it enabled this, or now enables the support of custom domain. So you can now use a fully custom domain across both product editions, including integrated business content across Work Zone. So if you want to use a custom domain, you can do that for the product using the custom domain service. And then certainly maybe the last thing I want to highlight here for standard edition is the overall idea of what we call new site experience. And this includes a broad range of topics. You can see a visual representation of what this can mean in this on the right-hand side here. And you may wonder, this now looks somewhat similar to what I've just shown for advanced. And that is correct, because now essentially this idea of this visual grid-based page building and support for UI cards, these are capabilities we've previously had for advanced edition, and we've now made those. We've really taken those capabilities of locally created pages and spaces, the page builder with the overall grid layout and cards, in particular using content packages. Those are also available in standard edition to really, in addition to those tiles and KPI tiles, create a different visualization experience for business content. Again, this does not change the use cases or the capabilities of one or the other product, in the sense that Work Zone standard edition is very much still this application-centric business side, whereas Work Zone is tailoring or is targeting that additional digital workplace experience with additional types of content on top of business data or applications, decentralized content creation, forums, news feeds, web content management, and many others. So that's really just harmonizing the experience and the ability to visualize application data more flexibly in standard edition now. And maybe a quick side remark here, we've also removed the limitation for being able to select up to 10 languages at the same time per site. So this has been now lifted. Note there's a limitation that applies in terms of the number of assets or artifacts you can create per site. But nonetheless, you can now select more than 10 languages at the same time, which I think is also quite nice. And then sort of concluding that, of course, many of the things I've talked about are also applicable to the advanced edition, but there's many others that happened on top. To summarize a bit, there's different enhancements that were made around the overall role base and content flexibility, ability to hide empty widgets or cards. So depending on the content, you can now more dynamically create content per page, different searches and sources of widgets. So where can you get content from? This has been dramatically increased. And also the previously mentioned overall menu experience has been enhanced to allow the creation of different menu items for different roles, and in a more granular fashion. You can hide the entire menu, have more flexibility in terms of the access control and many other aspects. So this has been enhanced overall to allow more flexibility in terms of the layouting and creation. Then maybe the other thing worth calling out here is that we had previously had an integration with the workflow service, which in earlier summertime this year, really across Build Work Zone Advanced Edition and SuccessFactors Work Zone, we have replaced with SAP Build Process Automation. Please note that, of course, this integration technically is available across both editions. In SAP SuccessFactors Work Zone, this Build Process Automation solution is bundled with it already. So there's a commercial license bundle that includes process automation with selected number of licenses and components. Whereas for the advanced edition, we do have that technical integration available, but of course you do need to buy that service separately, but the integration exists. And then maybe the two last items worth calling out here that are the most recent enhancements even to the product. Number one, talked about Task Center as that unified inbox. Already previously, we had the integration with Task Center and Work Zone. So accessing Task Center from within Work Zone, all editions was always possible, or has been possible for a longer time now. But what we've added now is that Work Zone is also a source for Task Center. So if you have in this previously showcased workspace, you also have a task management capability where you can assign and work on tasks collaboratively. Those tasks can now also show up in Task Center alongside the tasks from Concur, Fieldglass, SuccessFactors, and so on. So this is now another source that you can combine. And Task Center is that sort of one inbox experience. And then last but not least, you've seen it quickly pop up during the demo even, and you can see it showcased right here, is what we call announcements. So it's a big announcement banner. It's a feature exclusive to the advanced edition that you can use either as a warning or an information message. I don't know, upcoming security or maintenance topics. You may have an upcoming company survey that you want to inform users about. You really want to make that prominent across the entire site experience, rather than, or maybe in addition to, a widget that is more sticky on one specific page. So this announcement banner feature can be utilized for that. So I hope we've achieved the goal of demystifying and helped clarify some of the additional dimensions that are to be considered here. In case you would like to learn even more, there's plenty of detailed information out there. So there's, of course, different certifications, learning journeys, other aspects. And in case you would like to learn more, let me sort of conclude here. So you can see different tutorials, technical information, community, different social channels, lots of material for you to explore. And with this, I would say that concludes the session. We have some more time for additional questions, but already now, thank you for joining us. And over to you, Ian.
Wow. All I can say is thank you, Florian, for this really knowledgeable session on Work Zone. I really did get a lot from this, and you win an award from me. I'll send it in the post to you. For you, the attendees, an important note: in order to earn points for this session, you want to complete the tutorial, which has two vital validation questions. So you would have had to have listened to Florian. Links in the tutorial for the tutorials in the description. So thank you all for joining the session. Wish you all a great day and great evening ahead. And Florian, thank you once again for giving us this fantastic session.
Thanks for having me, and have a nice rest of the day, everyone. Thank you.